So the one myth is that you have to have an MBA to be an entrepreneur. You don't. I don't have an MBA. I don't have any business degree. I'm an English major, and I came as a mom who did technical writing on the side when I started my business. It isn't about your accolades. It's about your hustle, your grit, and most your passion for what you do.
In this episode, we talk with Cherie Hoeger, CEO and founder of Saalt, all about sustainable period care. So we talk about the global impact of her company. We talk about business and strategy, hiring, building your team, all of the things that you might want to know as a small business owner, entrepreneur, or founder. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to Sexology Lab. Each week, we speak with the most compelling minds in modern sexology to ask the questions shaping the future of desire, connection, and human wellness. Let's dive in. Welcome, Cherie.
I'm so glad to be with you, Michelle.
Thanks so much for being with us today. So I want to jump right in with a question for you. If you just had one piece of advice to give to a founder building a mission-driven company today, what would that be?
Business takes hustle, and it's really an energy game. It is all about how you direct the energy, how efficient you are with the energy, where you're directing that energy, where your passion lies. And so you have to be really intentional when you're building a business with exactly what you want and how you'll get there. Because if not, you will burn out. It is quite a ride to build a business. Won't sugarcoat that at all. But it's also one of the most fulfilling journeys you'll ever take.
I love that so much. That is great advice. All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about you. What is your 30-second origin story? So how did you find your way into sustainable period care?
Yeah, so Saalt launched in 2018, so we're about 8 years old now. Well, I say eight because, you've got some extra time that you have just launching the business too. It started because I had a phone call with my aunt in Venezuela who couldn't get any products. She didn't have access to, struggled to get access to food and to anything on grocery store shelves, let alone things like pads and tampons. And I was looking into reusable products for her situation, and that's when I discovered cups and discs and period underwear. And I was a woman in my 30s at the time and thought, how come I've never seen these before? Where have these been my whole life? And I tried them out and was just blown away. Not only were they, cleaner and more sustainable, better for our bodies and the environment, but they're actually more comfortable and just more convenient. And I would forget I was on my period when I was wearing, these cups.
Wow.
And I just loved them and said, I need to get this out to my friends and to more of a mainstream consumer. And as I looked at the market at the time, there weren't a lot of good US made products. I said, this is something we can do. So I remember approaching my husband and I was like, let's start a menstrual cup company. And he's like, what?
What is that?
There were so many taboos and stigmas. And as you know, in the sexual health field, you encounter that a lot. We thought, there's a better way to tell the story about these sustainable products that maybe had a little bit of the stigma and were seen as this fringe alternative that you only use when you're, traveling overseas. And I said, I want to make this the go-to, the gold standard, because that's how I felt actually wearing them. So it's been quite a journey. Like I said, we launched in 2018. We launched with our cups and then developed our discs and then our period underwear. And it's been an incredible journey.
All right. Now, is there a current trend happening in your space that you're really excited about?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say period care is having its moment. And so you're actually hearing more about periods. We're having the very first studies about periods. There was no studies 5 years ago. And then suddenly we're finally actually testing the efficacy of menstrual products. And there's no regulations from the FDA for tampon companies, pad companies to even list ingredients. And a lot of that is changing. You're starting to see more regulatory actions. So excited about that. And the other trend that I see is that periods have always been so hush-hush. And especially like you look at the boomers and they're like, I don't want to even talk about this. Don't tell me about different products. I'm going to use my Playtex Gentle Glide. That's all I want. And then you've got the millennials who are like, they're opening up a little bit more. And then the Gen Zers, they're not only receptive to these alternative reusable products, but they are talking about their periods with their boyfriends and with their friends and on social media. So you're opening up conversations. And we like to think that we've been part of that, opening up those conversations, but I really think it's their approach and their just willingness to be able to tell it like it is.
So I want to chat with you mom to mom. I've got 2 daughters and they're young. And so what advice do you have for parents about talking to their daughters about periods and introducing period care?
Yeah, I have 5 daughters, which you know. And so this is a great question for me. When you talk to your daughters about periods, it matters the tone that you use. And this actually matters with everybody that you speak to. And that's that if you speak about it with a tone of shame or discomfort, then they're going to take those cues. So our friends, our colleagues also take those cues from us, those who are menstruators, right? And if we talk about it in those tones, then they're going to do the same thing. But if we talk about it in a straightforward way, an open way, then that's how they're going to speak about it. And they're going to feel like they're allowed to speak about it with you. So same thing applies to our children. We should be open about it. They need to know this. And, I talk to my daughters when they're well before their period age. So my 10-year-old who just turned 11, my 8-year-old, I talk to them about their periods to know what to expect so that they don't have situations like we hear so often and mostly in developing nations. But young girls will start bleeding and they'll think they're dying. They don't realize what's even happening because they haven't had any conversations. It's fun. We just developed this first period kit. Love it. It's for
Yes, I'm
teens.
so excited to see this.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's so great. It has so many wonderful products in there for teens for their first period. And I love it because instead of being handed a box of pads and tampons, you hand them a cup, looks like this.
Yeah.
And it's a cup that's, perfectly sized. If they're not ready to try something inserted yet, then we have our underwear, our teen underwear, and it comes in this beautiful package. And it's so wonderful because it's soft and silky and it's great for active teens. My teens are crazy active. They do gymnastics, they do dance, musical theater. And so it really is able to help them. And it holds up to 3 pads of flow in this super soft product. And it doesn't feel medical. It feels like, okay, they're wearing something that they would normally wear, and it keeps them protected all day. My kids wear them every single day. So super excited about this. Also comes with a few other extras, the compact sanitizer and so forth. So everything they need to start their periods. But the thing I'm most excited about is that we also wrote this booklet. It's Periods and Reusable Period Care 101s. And what I love about it is that it goes through just some of the basics of having a period. So first of all, just anatomy, and then it gets into the cycle, the phases of the cycle. Finding that page here. Oh, there we go. So you have the phases of the menstrual cycle, and you have how long they last, what they will be experiencing during that time, which is so important for young teens, especially understanding their luteal phase. I like to tell my daughters, if you have a time period in the month where you just feel so down, you feel depressed, you may even have suicidal thoughts, your hormones fluctuate so much during these phases. You need to understand that. You might be in your luteal phase. There's nothing wrong with you. This is normal. Give yourself grace and realize that those feelings are going to come during that phase. Have some self-care those days. Get through it, and you're going to feel a lot better as you enter your follicular phase, your ovulation phase, and so forth. This is so important for them to understand so that they're not questioning what's going on with their mental health. And then we also talk about just how to use leak-proof underwear and then our cups and discs. This is great because so many don't know and aren't introduced to reusable products. And so this gives them all the how-tos. Love that book.
That is so amazing. If you were anything like me growing up, maybe your period talk was like, yeah, it'll come like every month. And that's it. Okay, nothing about the different phases, how you might feel, your mental health. So I think this is just so important.
Yeah, they need so much more information. And as parents, we can do so much to help them make it a comfortable, convenient time because it's so hard already. And the cramping is so tough. And there's so many great products out there now. So we're living in a great time.
Oh, I love it so much. All right. Now I want to talk about business. So when you look back at the early days of Saalt, what was the single most important business decision that helped you break into this market? Because as we talked, there's some stigma. So what helped you?
I would say our branding, hands down. And so we knew from the get-go that to be able to really make a splash in this market and to be able to change the stigmas that were around period care, we needed to show beautiful packaging that we almost called it, we wanted it to be target worthy. And we were so excited when in our second year of business, we were able to meet with a target buyer. And she actually said these words, we'd been working for it for like a year and a half and creating, these beautiful packaging, something that opened up and felt like a high-end lipstick that would showcase the cup and so forth. And she looked at the packaging and she thumbed through it and gave us some advice. And then she said, I've seen a lot of cups, and I mean a lot of cups. And I think your brand has the ability to take this mainstream. And when I just sat there with my husband, who's also a co-founder, and we were just dumbfounded because she literally repeated to us the words that we had been working on. We wanted this to be target worthy. We wanted it to be mainstream, and we wanted it to look beautiful enough. And she just confirmed that for us, which was such a validating moment as a founder. And so brand is huge. And to be able to have this beautiful brand, we made it look like the natural landscape. We use very neutral, beautiful colors that were also a little bit more gender neutral for all those menstruators who don't identify as female. And so we were able to create a brand that really spoke to and resonated with our mainstream audience. And so many brands at the time really had these two extremes. They had either these really patronizing pinks and purples and flowers, and like that was their brand, or you had a lot of shock value, kind of blood and body parts. No one's talking to that middle mainstream. We really want to reach those consumers who just want to feel clean and dignified and elevated on their periods and get rid of the shame that's around it. So that's really how we positioned our brand.
Yeah, elevated. I love that word. We are connected on LinkedIn, and you posted about the founder's paradox. Yeah, you spoke beautifully about that, and that to scale, you must build something that doesn't need you every day. So what was the hardest part about that transition for you?
It continues to be hard. I'm still trying to duplicate myself, and we have an incredible leadership team. And I have literally just in the past few years been able to get into what I call my unique ability and doing what I do best as a founder. Because I used to run the creative team, I would run the marketing team, and I was still running impact, which I still do. So like literally like 3 or 4 different jobs. And I'm finally like kind of narrowed to just the top 3. But it is, you do need to be able to duplicate yourself. It's tough because this is your baby. It's hard to let go of the reins and say, okay, someone can do it as good as me. But I would say the number one thing to look for is actually looking for someone who can do it better than you. Don't settle for someone who does it just as good or just good enough. Find someone who can do it even better, and then they're actually bringing value to you. And you can find them. So take your time. We always say hire slow, fire fast, be deliberate with who you hire.
All right. Now, what qualities do you look for when hiring leaders in your organization?
Such a great question. So first of all, there's some really great, I would say, professional assessments out there that help you determine who has the qualities that you're looking for. And especially when we're looking at higher level positions, we have them take the Kolbe assessment is our number one. Not a lot of people know about the Kolbe, but it's fantastic because it gives you an indication of how people start their work and how people approach their work. Are they a fact finder? Are they a quick start? Are they an implementer? And that's really important because if you're trying to find someone who's a really good follow through, you have to make sure it shows that in their Kolbe. And if they're just a high quick start, then you're not going to get what you want. If you're hiring someone in a sales position, right, then they need to have a quicker start and maybe not as high a follow through, but they can be paired with someone who has a high follow through, and then they make a good team. And then also Myers-Briggs, Strengths Finder, you can see, do they have woo? Are they more strategic or are they more of an executor? All of those things matter. So all those professional assessments, as you get further down the line, we have people take them so that we understand how they work with our team, because you want to hire for your weaknesses. So lean into your strengths, hire for your weaknesses. And I know that's really contrary to a lot of what's been out there in conventional wisdom. It's, you need to work on your weaknesses. You might have these strengths, but also work on your weaknesses. That's somewhat true. You don't want to lag in that, but really you should be leaning into your strengths. And what I've mentioned before, unique ability, is finding what makes you unique, where you bring value. And it takes some time to really find that and understand that about yourself. But when you do, it's so powerful because that unique ability is something that you can do every day and never feel burnt out about it. You enjoy your work and you're bringing value to others. And so you should do more of that and then hire for those weaknesses.
How did you find your unique ability?
There's a process that's recommended. And part of the process is actually sending out a letter to a lot of your close associates and people who worked with you and say, how do you value me? And then you look for patterns. And so as I did that, I found patterns where people say, Cherie, you're so authentic. You're so grounded. And I was like, okay, how does that apply to me professionally? That sounds like I'm an empathetic, good friend of a person, but how does that apply in a professional setting? And then I realized as I would do speaking engagements, as I was talking with customers, it really was a strength to be able to connect authentically with our customers. And with those I was speaking to, spreading the message about the brand to get more brand awareness, because I really have this power to be able to be real with people, to be down to earth and to connect with them in a way that doesn't feel fake or doesn't feel like a sales pitch. And so it is something that my leadership team really appreciates about me. And then also I like to create tools. Like the unique ability is kind of twofold. world for me. And I like to create tools that empower the individual. And a lot of that is through my writing. It's through booklets like these or
Yeah.
impact report that shows the impact we make, but it's really being able to get the punch out of messaging and create these tools that help people improve their lives.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the company culture at Salt? So, have you developed like a positive culture for your employees, and what does that look like?
We have, yes. Everything is driven by core values. We have 5 core values, and everything is filtered through there. The decisions that we make, how we hire, and how we really foster what we want to put out there in the world. And, someone will see a brand and they'll be like, oh, I love that brand. But what they're really saying is, I love the people who create that brand. The
Yeah.
people are the secret sauce. And the nice thing is a brand can have a persona where it feels like this amazing friend. And brands have the ability to have the best of the persona. Like as humans, we're all fallible, right? But a
Yeah.
brand, well, they can be both cool and clever and authoritative and trendy, right? They can
Yeah.
have all the good stuff. And what it really is bringing the strengths of a full team and putting it up and propping it up in a brand. And that's
Yeah.
why brands have this cool association. So you want to find those people that emulate what you want your brand to be able to put out there in the world. It's a beautiful thing to be driven by core values. You need to have those core values strong and understand what you stand for and understand what kind of culture you want to foster and hire those people that emulate those core values and match them.
Are you curious about sexology? Do you want to further integrate sexology into your work or your life? Well, friends, then we've got something just for you. It's called the Sexology Practice Guide, and it walks you through the ways this shows up in your work, in your life, and guides you through working within your scope, incorporating intimacy and sexual health into your work without starting over. Download this short, practical guide at sexologylab.com/guide. That's sexologylab.com/guide. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe and share. And now, back to the show. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the stigma of period care. So, for founders in stigmatized industries like sexual health, fertility, menopause, what is your playbook for changing the narrative?
It's a fun industry to be able to be in marketing for
Yeah.
because we get to try all sorts of stuff and some of it's censored, like but then you just kind of find ways around that. One of our most viral videos is just taking one of these discs and this isn't going to work probably. No, I think it'll work. It has a key on it, but it's a key ring, but it just shows how small it gets through a key ring.
Wow. Okay.
Because people always say, oh, these things look so large. And I say, well, it's not as big as a baby's head. It's getting stuck here at the end. Here. There we go. It's going to fit. It's going to fit in there. But then we show them, this is how small it gets, right? It's so flexible. It gets just as small as a tampon when you put it in. And then it was able to collect the flow. It's a wonderful, wonderful product. But it's fun because you find ways to be able to teach about your products in ways that are interactive and fun. So we call it edutainment. You're educating and you're entertaining at the same time. So I would say that's the number one way that we're breaking stigmas and really speaking about periods in a straightforward way, speaking about bladder leaks, speaking about discharge. Yes, I say discharge on camera, and everyone's like, okay, she said
Like,
that
oh,
out
no.
loud. We're like, yeah, this is 50% of the population, and they experience it daily. So let's talk about this. It's certainly a fun category.
We've all had that friend who's like super comfortable talking about sex and periods and all those things that are usually a little taboo. And then when your friend is so outspoken, you feel like you have the freedom to be outspoken and confident too. And I feel like that's what you're doing there through your edutainment is you're almost in a way giving permission like, hey, this can be a fun topic. We can talk about it.
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish and taking those cues, like I said, from us.
So can you tell me a little bit about each of the products that you currently are offering right now?
Yeah, so I'll start with cups and discs. We call them our hard goods products, but these are our original firmness cups. We have a small, we have a regular size, what we call it. And then we have a softer firmness too, which people can use if they feel any discomfort with the original firmness. We do recommend that people start with these. These are for beginners. And that is because it opens up really easily in the vaginal canal. So you just fold it. This is a C fold. And then it just opens up. You insert it in the vaginal canal. It opens and it collects the flow rather than absorbing it like a tampon. And this can hold up to 3 times a tampon, and this holds 4 times more than a tampon. So they're longer lasting. They're made out of medical grade silicone. and they last 10 years, which is
Wow.
incredible because you literally can have, one of these in your purse and one in the car, and you never have to buy tampons again. So it's a replacement for a tampon. Now, the discs are also amazing because they, instead of sitting in the vaginal canal, they sit what's called the vaginal fornix. And so if you have a weaker pelvic floor and you have trouble keeping the cup in because it relies on suction to seal and it has to have some strength within the vaginal canal to hold in place. And if you have a weaker pelvic floor, then it can kind of move up or down on you. So a disc would be a really great option because this only relies on the skeletal structure to stay in place. So it sits above your pubic bone. So you just pinch it into a figure eight like that, and then you insert it into the canal, and then you tuck it up above your pubic bone like that with this finger notch. And then when you take it out, you just remove it with the finger notch. This collects 3 times as much as a tampon, and this one collects 6 times as much of a tampon. So if you have a heavy flow, this is such a great option. Also, if you have an IUD, then we recommend discs because you don't want something that's suctioning and has the ability to maybe pull out an IUD. So discs are great. The other bonus is that they're great for mess-free period sex. But it sits right under the cervix. It's all about positioning. It sits right under the cervix, and this, because it has this flexible base in it, it doesn't sit in the canal, but above it, you can have mess-free period sex, and that's amazing. They're wonderful products. And then let's talk about our underwear, because if you're a pad user or if you use panty liners, essentially they're a panty liner replacement. This is my favorite style. This is our seamless variety, and it has this really soft and stretchy nylon that is completely seamless under leggings. It's great for working out, and essentially you just have this nice thin liner. So this here, if you want to guess, like how many pads do you think this holds?
Oh gosh. I don't know, maybe 2, 3?
Well, there you go. Yeah, this can hold up to 3 pads of flow. We have some other ones that hold up to 6 pads of flow. This is our boy short. Yeah, but look how thin it is still. 6 pads of flow for that thinness. I love the boy short as well. This is just a soft comfort modal, and this one is great for overnight. We actually call it our dream short because that's how it feels wearing it.
Oh, I love
super
it.
soft and silky. I use these for postpartum bleeding. I will tell you, I've had 6 kids, and I was only able to use our Saalt wear with my last child because we hadn't developed it with the other 5. And you're using like that mesh underwear with those big monster pads, and you feel like you're sitting on a log and it's bunching up on you and you're trying to nurse. Like, being real here, it's just a horrible experience. And then when I tried these, I kind of use those monster pads for the first 2 days because it's like a small murder scene but then I was able to wear these for the rest of the month because you're not able to use inserted products. And I called my team and I cried. And I said, this is the most comfortable postpartum experience I've ever had. And I was just enthralled. And so I would just rotate, through like 4 of these, and it was amazing. So that's one of my favorite products. We have all sorts of other ones. These ones also come in, bikini or brief styles and more. And then obviously our teen products. So everything under the sun when it comes to Saalt wear. We even have bralettes, matchback bralettes for the Saalt wear. But the intention is to help people feel clean and comfortable and dignified on their period, or if they're having bladder leaks. I just went to a screening of a new docuseries about perimenopause called Balance. It was fantastic. And what I realized is I was researching, and I was a panelist there, so I was researching about menopause, which I'm in because I'm 43. And 50% of those in perimenopause experience bladder leaks, and then about half of those wear daily panty liners. And just imagine that, daily panty liners. I think the pad experience is one of the worst product experiences of my life, is wearing a pad, trying to run, work out. I was a gymnast trying to do gymnastics with a pad on. It's like sticking in all the wrong places. You're trying to stick it right back, and you got the wings, and they're making your underwear uncomfortable. It's just the worst experience, especially for active teens or an active mom. And so to be able to offer something to replace those daily liners that catches wetness, catches the little bladder leaks you have when you sneeze or when you're trying to do burpee or whatever it is just amazing. You just feel like yourself. You're wearing something comfortable, and you're wearing something that protects you. So I love this product.
Yeah. And that's originally where I got interested in period underwear, was because when my daughter started her period at a young age, I wanted something that made her feel like herself.
I love hearing that. so much. And it's important to do research around period underwear because some have been treated with PFAS chemicals and you want to stay away from those. Our saltwear has never been treated with PFAS chemicals, and we have them regularly tested also to make sure that we have those publicly shown for anyone who has concern around that. But you want ones that are high quality.
Yeah, that's really important to know. All right, I want to talk a little bit about your global impact with Saalt. Okay, so you've said that without water, menstrual health, education, and opportunity are all at risk. So, why is this connection so critical and still overlooked?
Great question. We just finished our impact report, and I
Yeah.
have some beautiful photos of some of the boreholes that we funded as a company. And there we go. There's one there. So beautiful. They put some beautiful artwork there on the borehole as well. And this kind of shows like a greater view of what it looks like, where you have kind of a gravity fed tank that then goes down to a spigot here. And this is in Nigeria. And I do care about water just as much as I care about menstrual health because it really goes hand in hand. Women are the ones most affected by a lack of access to water because they use it for what I call the 3 C's, which is cooking, cleaning, and caring for children. And they're usually tasked with retrieving the daily water, which takes so much time. You're talking about unpaid labor and just what is a barrier to women going to school, to girls going to school, to women being able to work and have economic progress. And a lot of that just ties around water and having those daily needs and being tasked with spending so much of their day just retrieving it and using that water. And so being able to provide access to clean drinking water, or if you look at all WASH as a category, WASH stands for water, sanitation, and hygiene, then latrines, places where they can actually be able to sanitize in a dignified manner, all of that matters. And so we do a lot of work in African nations. We've built boreholes in Nigeria, we've built latrines in Uganda, other water infrastructure projects, along with donating our products and pairing education with those products so that we really take a holistic strategy to helping people have a dignified period. So we've donated over 150,000 products in 56 countries now, and we're just still going strong. Our end goal is to end global period poverty, which is a massive goal because there's 500 million women and girls who live in period poverty. So it'll take some time, but we are trying to do some more collective efforts to get our products out there. And I could go on a soapbox about that, but I think that reusable products are the only answer to actually ending period poverty. You can't do it with disposables. There's not enough funding to fund the maintenance and the supply of all these disposable products. There's cloth pads, which really do help, but there's some problems around that. But our cups and discs that last 10 years, made out of 100% medical grade silicone, so they're safe. They catch most of the flow. They take very little water to be able to clean, even less so than cloth pads. And then underwear that has built-in protection. So it's like those cloth pads, but some people can't afford underwear. So this solves both those problems by having them both there. Those two pairings really are the ideal products to be able to actually solve period poverty worldwide. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I love that. And what made you decide that you wanted to make this global impact with not only your products, but with water? And does it relate back to your origin story, or is there something else?
It does relate back to my origin story and probably who I am as a person. I'm very philanthropic as a person. I think I got that from my wonderful mother. But I just can't imagine a world where my 5 daughters, would live without water or would live without access to products, and that would keep them out of school. And I believe that everybody is equal in, respect and value. And I want that for everybody, not just my daughters because they live in a privileged country. I want that for all girls. And I feel the same way about them. I'm trying to make that a reality where girls will not be inhibited in their dreams and their education due to something as basic to the human condition as a period. I know that our products can solve that. And it really was seen firsthand how my aunt in Venezuela wasn't able to access those products that brought that aha moment where I said, oh my gosh, I've never really thought about what other people do for their periods. What do women do? And then I learned, okay, if they don't have access to any way to care for themselves on their period, then they're using banana leaves, or they're using bits of mattress pad that they get from their mattresses, or paper that they tear from school books, or old cloths, unhygienic because they don't want to hang them up so that people know they're on their period. So they're trying to let them dry like under their beds. And this is the reality. There's young girls who will literally sit on pieces of cardboard that just absorbs, sit on a bunk bed on pieces of cardboard during their period week because they don't have pads. There's girls, and this is a big problem in African nations, where they're actually exchanging sexual favors with professors in exchange for pads. So it goes so deep.
Yeah.
This lack of access goes so deep. So I realized that something as small as a cup, a period cup, could literally keep girls in school and keep women providing for their families and accessing economic progress and breaking cycles of poverty for generations. And I said, this is worth the effort. We have to do this. So that's when we decided to do our 1% Give Back mission to do this. And it really fuels and motivates my team. It's why people come to work for us. They want to do something that's not just for profit, but they want to be making a difference. And so we tell those stories and they're so proud of it.
That is really, really incredible. I want to talk a little bit about like the nitty gritty. Like, how did you make this happen? There might be a founder listening who's like, yeah, I want to give back too. I just don't know where to start. Who do I contact? How do I decide where my resources go? What would you recommend for somebody like that listening?
I would say first, look at where your passion scale is. Maybe we fangirl Cotopaxi, and David Smith is the founder there. And he just said, I visited so many places around the world. He's an adventurer, and he says, I see poverty everywhere. I want to do good, and I want to alleviate poverty. And that's what he decided, and he's putting all his efforts there. You may have an affinity towards helping rescue animals or helping with women and girls shelters, domestic violence shelters. Decide what those pillars are going to be. So we have 3 pillars, and it's menstrual health and girls' education. And then we added a 4th now. Just this year, wash projects, which is water, and then environmental sustainability. But those 4 pillars all have a really symbiotic relationship, and they all speak to each other, and our products solve so much of that. So it works. But figure out what you're doing or what your products and company can provide that matches that. Find out what you're passionate about and be intentional about that. Too many companies do what I call the shotgun approach, which is, okay, we're going to give a grant here, we're going to give a grant there. We want to do good, but we can't decide on one specific area. And so instead, we're just going to fund all these different areas. But you know what that does for nonprofits? It's actually one of the worst way to support nonprofits who are trying to do good, because they'll get a little bit of funding and they'll try to scale, and then they don't have that funding the next year. And so then they have to pull back. And it's just like up and down journey for them. Whereas if you have great nonprofits that you can partner with to give them some funding, or great organizations that you're donating your product to, continue to fund them, help them grow, right? They don't have a for-profit entity, but they can pair with for-profit companies to be able to do what they do best. You allow them to do what they do best and what you do best. That really is the best way to support it.
That is really great advice. All right, I want to talk a little bit about sustainability. So, did you repurpose over 2 million plastic bottles into saltware products?
Yes, we did. So we have a wonderful lace and mesh line. I don't have it here, but we have repurposed plastic water bottles within some of our absorbent technology in all of our underwear. And then we also have this lace and mesh line that's made out of single-use plastic water bottles. It's incredible to be able to do that. So we take them out of the environment. They're not in our waterways, they're not in our environment, and instead they're being reused into beautiful, silky soft underwear. And it feels so good. We have incredible manufacturers. So we both do that. And of course, our products just divert a massive amount of waste. One cup this big can divert up to 3,000 pads and tampons from landfills over its 10-year life. And then the underwear can divert hundreds of pads, right? Because it's also reusable for so many years. And so we're naturally diverting waste. And then we're also repurposing plastic. We also are partnered with an organization called Repurpose Global, and we are plastic negative certified, which means that we remove twice as much plastic as we create in our business and put into the environment. So we're trying to really offset that by not only being plastic neutral, but plastic negative, which means that we're actually funding efforts to remove low waste plastics from areas. And I love this organization because they fund the salaries of these waste workers in areas that see the burden of our waste the most. So like Indonesia, the Philippines, because in the US, we don't see it all around so much. And that's because we ship it. So if you think about all the shipping containers that come to the US full of products for our consumerism, guess what they take back in those shipping containers most often? The waste. And the waste is shipped to these third world nations because, they can purchase it and then they recycle it and they have these programs, but they're seeing most of the world's waste. And so this organization takes all those low waste plastic and is able to fund it into recycling projects and also provide salaries for these waste workers that are primarily women. So I think it's over 90% women. It's a great one.
Now, where do you see the biggest opportunity for innovation in period care over the next 5 years or so?
The first thing I would say is I think that there's more innovation within the reusable period space. Just with underwear, I think that the technology that we have can go into swimwear. I know there's some companies out there
Yeah.
where it's definitely on our product development pipeline. And then
Ooh.
to athleisure products and to a lot of just athletic uniforms. So thinking golf skirts and anyone
Yeah.
who has to wear white, volleyball shorts, right? Soccer shorts, all of that. They can use our underwear, but if it was integrated, I think that there's a lot of potential there. I also think our technology can span a lot of different areas. So we won't get into that. We're exploring a lot. That's number one. Second, for those who still want to use disposables, they're just used to that convenience, behavior change is hard, then I think that there's a lot of innovation that can happen with more biodegradable and better materials that are used that are sustainable.
Yeah.
People are exploring bamboo and other sustainable fibers for the disposable products so that we're not just using plastics and cotton that has bleaches and chemicals and dyes and things that can make that just a little bit less impactful for the environment and a little healthier for the body.
All right. Well, I want to close things out with a lightning round. All right.
Okay.
So tell me the first thing that comes to mind here. All right. One myth about entrepreneurship that you would love to bust.
So the one myth is that you have to have an MBA to be an entrepreneur. You don't. I don't have an MBA. I don't have any business degree. I'm an English major, and I came as a mom who did technical writing on the side when I started my business. It isn't about your accolades. It's about your hustle, your grit, and most your passion for what you do.
I love that so much. Fabulous. All right. Next question. A business book or resource every founder should read.
I love the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and that's really how I developed my core few. He calls it your vital few, and it's all about getting rid of the non-essential so that you have time for things that are essential and that really bring you that fulfillment. And it helped clarify that for me. So that's a fantastic one just to get both your business and your life in order.
One metric you wish more founders cared about.
I would say your NPS score, because that really measures how your customers are interacting with your company and how they feel about your company. And those who have a high NPS score really shows how you're viewed in the marketplace. And if you want your company to be long-standing for the long term, then you need to have that customer goodwill and you need to have people talking about you and recommending people to your business. So when we look at surveys of how people got to know us, number one is through our paid ads. Customer acquisition is so important, but our number two is word of mouth. And that is so important. And that makes me proud because people are personally recommending our company and it speaks volumes.
All right. Last one. One habit that makes you a better leader.
The one habit is really expressing gratitude for your people and for your partners and anyone that you work with and giving them praise because everyone has in their human nature wants to be praised. They want to be appreciated. They want to be valued. And to me, it goes so much further than offering criticism or like, you didn't get this done, right? It's offering it in a way that's positive. And there's a really great quote by Charles Schwab that I pulled up. And it says, I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people the greatest asset I possess. And the way to develop the best that is in a person is by appreciation and encouragement. There's nothing that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticism from superiors. I never criticize anyone. I believe in giving a person incentive to work. So I'm anxious to praise, but loath to find fault. If I like anything, I'm hearty in my appreciation and lavish in my praise. And I love that.
Yeah. And I found that to be so true with people I've worked with. I love it. My final question for you, and this really isn't part of the lightning round, but I want to ask you if you could leave one message for the next generation, what would your message to the next generation be?
So one of my favorite quotes is from Oprah, and she says, the greatest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. And so my message is, especially for those Gen Zers, figure out what the life of your dreams looks like. Figure out what your big goals are for what you want it to look like and order your life to be able to accomplish those. You have to be deliberate about your life or life will just happen to you. Don't let it happen to you. Take control of your life and go for your big dreams.
Amazing. All right. Now, before we go, you have presented with Sexual Health Alliance before, and I would love to hear a little bit about your experience as a presenter.
It was so fun presenting to the Sexual Health Alliance team and to everybody that was on the Zoom call listening in. Very, very engaging. Loved working with your organization conversation. Loved being able to talk with people about similar stigmas in the sexual health field and speak with so many entrepreneurs also, a lot of
Yeah.
solopreneurs who are trying to make it on their own. And I know how that feels. I know
Yeah.
how it feels from the early days, and a lot of women as well. And so I was really excited to be able to speak to that audience and to be able to offer them my perspective and encourage them in their fields, because we need more conversations. We need more stigma breaking conversations. And especially women need help with their sexual health, with their hormonal health, and so many areas of women's health. And so I just applaud your efforts. It was fantastic to present.
Thank you so much. I love hearing that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Cherie. And I look forward to seeing what you're up to next.
Thanks, Michelle.
All right. Bye, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. Links are in the description below.